In Spain, we have megalithic structures. They call them dolmens of Guadalajara, the remains of a 7,000-year-old megalithic monument consisting of around 100 standing stones, some up to 6 feet tall, arranged around an oval open space. That circle is going to become very important when we get into reconstructing this for ourselves to understand. See the circular pattern? The circular pattern. The dolmen of Guadalajara, also known as the treasure of Guadalajara, and as the Spanish Stonehenge for its resemblance to the English Stonehenge, is a megalithic monument dating from around 5,000 BC and are thus 2,000 years older than the earliest phases of Stonehenge. Naphtalier. We're going back into Africa. Naphtalier. Naphtalier was once a large water basin in the, that's what the word plier means. Naphtalier was a large water basin in the Nubian desert located around 497 miles south of modern day, Cairo, or about 62 miles west of Abu Simbel in southern Kemet. Has anybody here been to Kemet yet? You should put it on your list of things to do before you pass. Once I get my papers, I will be there. Naphtalier, right? Remember, we was in South Africa. We went to Central Africa. Now we're coming to Northeast Africa in Naphtalier. We're still not in Egypt yet. This is just showing you the progression of the astronomical knowledge that was handed down from generation to generation that became the foundation for the Kemetic calendar that we will be deciphering later on. Today, the region is characterized by numerous archaeological sites. The Naphtalier archaeological site, one of the earliest of the Kemetic Neolithic New Stone Age, Neolithic period, is dated to about 7,500 BC. So that's about 9,000 years ago. And notice it's in a circular structure as the ones earlier. Although today the Western Kemetic Desert is totally dry, it was not always the case. There is good evidence that there were several humid periods in the past when up to 1.5 inches of rain would fall per year. The most recent one during the last interglacial and early glaciation period, which stretched between 130,000 years to 70,000 years ago. Now, I put this in here to show you that this is how they talk about these places, right? Africa didn't, remember, we went through the migration of people. Africa never went through an ice age, ever. So when they bring glaciation periods in, they are using their part of the world to superimpose it upon our part of the world. During this time, the area was a savanna and supported numerous animals as instinct, buffalo and large giraffes, varieties of antelope and gazelle. That definitely was not any ice age. And here in the Sahara, this is called, they have named this, there's a cave in the Sahara that they named the Cave of the Swimmers. It could look like they are actually flying, right? The Cave of the Swimmers is a cave with ancient rock art in the mountainous Glyph Kabir plateau of the Libyan desert section of the Sahara. It is located in the New Valley Governorate of Southwest Egypt near the border with Libya. They are estimated to have been created as early as 10,000 years ago, with the beginning of the African humid period, when the Sahara was significantly greener and wetter than it is today. Today, the word Sahara is equated with desert, but it wasn't always a desert. It was grassy and wetter than it is today. Let's continue on. Beginning around 10,000 millennium BC, the region of the Nubian desert began to receive more rainfall, filling a lake. Early people may have been attracted to the region due to the sources of water. Astronomical. These include alignments of stone that may have indicated the rising of certain stars and a calendar circle that indicates the approximate direction of the summer solstice and the solstice sunrise. You see that all of these megalithic structures clock not only the moon cycle, but the solstice and the equinoxes. That's what enables you to make sure that your timing is correct. Now, let me share with you this. The solstice happens all over the globe at the same time to everybody. The equinox happens all over the globe at the same time of year for everybody. The full moon, on the other hand, doesn't happen on the same day for everybody around the world. It depends upon your angle to the moon. So the lunar calendar would be intrinsic to where you live at. The solar calendar, what I mean by solar, meaning that they're clocking the solstice and the equinox, that's going to happen at the same time for everybody around the globe, no matter whether you're at the North Pole, the equator, or the South Pole. That's the only time of year that is synchronized to the whole globe. The rising and setting of certain stars is going to be different depending upon your longitude and latitude on the planet. But again, the solstice and the equinox is going to happen at the same 4 days. The winter solstice lasts for 4 days. The summer solstice lasts for 4 days. The only difference in the northern and southern hemisphere is that when the northern hemisphere has a winter solstice, the southern hemisphere, it's the same solstice time, but it's the summer solstice in the southern hemisphere because the sun is shining on the southern hemisphere rather than the northern hemisphere. So we are cold in the winter, but the winter for the southern hemisphere is summer. Crazy, right? That's because the Western culture has superimposed their calendar upon everybody. So we say, oh, well, they're backwards. They're not backwards. That's how life is for them. Continue. Right? This is the circular diagram that we were talking about before. So that we have the so that you're going, this is the noctiplier diagram. So that you have stones in a circle, and then you have markers in the middle to look at the shadow. Because again, when you take notice, the shadow is not the same length every day, but it is a cycle. The shadow in the northern hemisphere during the winter solstice is short. During the summer solstice is long. So that you also will know the time of year by the shadow. The length of the shadow, which is the precursor to what? What we call sundials on a smaller scale. And here is a photographic reference of the noctiplier. It's not as large as some of the megalithic stone structures in other parts of the world.
The noctiplier. The Nubian Empire was established in 4800 BC. The Nubian Empire was located in northeastern Africa in the area which is today known as Sudan. Later, the capitals of the Nubian Empire would be Kerma, Napata, and Meroe. Now, the ancient Nubians were known to have deeply studied astronomy. Astronomy is the scientific study of the cosmos, which includes the analysis of star systems, planets, moons, and galaxies. These Africans studied the stars and developed detailed astronomical knowledge, which they documented in monuments and artifacts. The Nubians also tracked the precession of the stars and their movements. One of the more well-known astronomical monuments they created is the noctiplier, which is also known as the world's oldest astronomical observatory.
Did you hear what he said? World's oldest. Everybody is the world's oldest. Take that with a grain of salt. But let me show you, just in this picture, you see these three stars?
Yeah, looks familiar.
Exactly. So you know what this configuration is. It is Sahu.
Upside down. Mm-hmm.
It's Sahu for the Cometians and Orion from the Greeks, and is pointing to where? Sirius.
The noctiplier complex is located near Nabda in the Nubian Desert in East Africa. The noctiplier consists of a series of stone circles, stone slabs, buried rocks with carvings and structures. The stone structures are astronomically aligned to the stars, including the seven-star constellation known as the Big Dipper, the Orion constellation, and the star Sirius. It is understood that Nubians utilized the noctiplier as a type of star map to guide themselves across the desert. Within the noctiplier, we find a stone circle, which it is understood was used by these Africans to mark a specific celestial event, namely the summer solstice, which is associated with the onset of summer rains. The stone circle is 4 meters in diameter and is made up of 4 pairs of stones and a series of smaller stones. Connected within the center of the circle are 2 rows of 3 stones. It is now understood that the southern row of the 3 stones represent the 3 stars of Orion's belt. Orion's belt consists of 3 very bright stars, named Al-Natakum, Al-Nalam, and Minitaka, which are between 1340 and 1200 light years away from the planet Earth. Nearby to the stone circle, the Nubians developed another larger series of stone structures from rock, some of which weigh several tons. These megaliths are understood to be aligned to the star called Alpha Ursae Majoris, which is part of the Ursa Major star constellation. The Nubians.
The word Ursa means bear. Major means large, so they call it the large bear.
Of East Africa are remembered in history as some of the earliest and most advanced astronomers on planet Earth.
Now we come to one that we're all familiar with, that they talked about because they thought it was part of their history. But now we know better, don't we? We know that Stonehenge was not created by them. And if you read about Stonehenge, they was like, we don't know who built it. It's a mystery. And now we see that there are Stonehenge structures all over the globe, thousands of years older than Stonehenge itself. But what I like about Stonehenge, that since it's more recent in history, it is not as dilapidated as some of the older structures, and that 6,000-year-old Stonehenge. So from all of what we've shown before, who were the ones, I want y'all to say it, who built Stonehenge?
Africans.
That's right. That's right. It is clear, the evidence is clear from the other archaeological evidence to showing that the design is the same as those in other places that's thousands of years earlier. So this also proved Africans up in the United Kingdom before the leucoderms took it away from us. We probably moved because of the ice age. It's like, oh, it's getting too cold here. It's time to go. Stonehenge is a prehistoric. I love that word because I know what it means now. I used to think it meant like Flintstones and cavemen, but once I realized what the word his story means, I said, oh, so prehistory just means before you were around. I'm good with that now. Stonehenge is a prehistoric monument in Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire, England, 2 miles west of Amesbury. Amesbury? It consists of an outer ring of vertical sarsen standing stones, each around 13 feet high, 7 feet wide, and weighing about 25 tons. It seems like we love these 25-ton boulders, right? It's like, how do you even know what these stones weigh that y'all getting similar weight stones? Right. You're carving this out of, it's like if I'm working with clay, right? And I'm got the kick wheel and I got some clay. I have no idea what this stuff weighs. I'm just grabbing some clay, putting it on there. It's not until it's done that I can, and it's dried out, that I can weigh it. It's like, oh, wow, this pot that I made weighs like 8 pounds.
Unless you've done it before.
Exactly. Then it's like, okay, I'm gonna grab about 8 pounds of clay. How do you know that? Because I've done it before. Exactly. There we go. Inside a ring of smaller blue stones, inside these are freestanding trilithons. Remember, litho means stone. Trilithon just means 3 stones put together. 2 bulkier vertical sarsens joined by 1 lintel. That's what they mean by 3 stones. Right? You see where my red marker is? So you have 1 stone here, 1 stone here, and a stone going across. That's what they're calling a trilithon. The whole monument, now ruinous, is aligned toward the what? Sunrise on the summer solstice and sunset on the winter solstice. The stones are set within earthworks in the middle of the densest complex of the Neolithic, right, New Stone Age, and Bronze Age monuments in England, including several hundred tumuli or burial grounds, tumuli, burial ground. Now, remember, the phrase Bronze Age means, and they try to superimpose this on the rest of the world. Bronze Age means when people started using bronze. Bronze does not come out the ground. Bronze has to be made. That means that you have to get raw copper out the ground and tin out the ground, purify them, then mix them together to create bronze. That's what bronze is. Bronze is not a natural ore out the ground. So let's archaeologists believe Stonehenge's most iconic prehistoric ruin was built in several stages, with the earliest constructed about 6,000 or more years ago. What time is it?